It was very widely discussed. Members of the public showed up at hearings to talk about ranked choice voting. There was a coalition of groups. Common Cause was very active in advocating for ranked choice voting. There was an expert panel that was convened on ranked choice voting and redistricting, and a lot of discussion as to whether ranked choice voting should be adopted in the 2018 Charter Revision Commission revisions. You may recall that the Charter Revision Commission decided in 2018, rather than placing ranked choice voting on the ballot, they felt it needed more discussion, and they made a specific recommendation in their final report, knowing that there was another Charter Revision Commission lined up right behind them, appointed by the City Council and other elected city officials. And the recommendation was ranked choice voting is almost ready to go. It's really interesting. This should be studied further. So we go into the 2019 Charter Revision Commission with a lot of momentum for ranked choice voting. And in every single public hearing in all 5 boroughs, you have members of the public showing up saying ranked choice voting is something that we want for New York City. As a result, the 2019 Charter Revision Commission placed a referendum on the ballot, which included ranked choice voting for all New York City municipal primary and special elections. And that referendum passed with just under 75% of the vote. And it sets up our first ranked choice voting elections for this year, 2021. So why are we interested in ranked choice voting? Well, it's actually a reform which is really tailored for our electoral situation in New York City. Because of the happy conjunction of our very vigorous campaign finance system and term limits, we have a wealth of very diverse candidates who, under the current system, would risk splitting the vote. And you're seeing this in the 37 open council district seats that we have. It's not unusual for there to be anywhere between 6 and 12 candidates. When you have fields that are that large, under the current system of voting, what we call first past the post or plurality voting, city council members can be elected with a plurality, which means that some of them win their primaries, which, as we all know, are frankly where the decision is made who the office holder is going to be, with as little as 20% of the vote. That is not a strong situation for our democracy. Ranked choice voting is a response to that particular problem. So starting on January 1st, 2021, we have passed that date, all local special and primary elections for all city races, that's the council, borough president, public advocate, comptroller, and mayor, will be ranked choice voting elections. But remember, only the specials and the primaries. That means runoffs are eliminated, and candidates will need to win with at least 50% plus 1 of the vote. And voters will have the opportunity, not the requirement, but the opportunity to rank up to 5 candidates, including a write-in if they so choose. This puts the decision in the hands of the voters. And that is what we think is the strongest part of the system. So what's changing? Let's talk about the first early voting election, which is coming up. Voters in Council District 24, that's in Queens, will be the first in New York City to use ranked choice voting during the upcoming February 3rd special election. And early voting is coming up soon. Early voting starts on Saturday, January 23rd, runs through Sunday, January 31st. Election day is Tuesday, February 2nd. Whoops, we have a typo in here. It's Tuesday, February 2nd, not the 3rd. Polls are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. as they are on all election days. So what actually is ranked choice voting? How does it work? This gives you an example of how it works. Every voter has the option to rank up to 5 candidates in any race where there are more than 2 candidates. And as I pointed out, with all of these open seats, it's it's highly unlikely we're going to have a large number of primaries or special elections where we have only 2 candidates. I think CD24 is much more indicative of what we're looking at, where we have 8 candidates running for that open seat in a special election. So how do you make your choice? Well, your first choice is the candidate you love. It is the candidate you are passionate about. It's the candidate you want to financially contribute to. It's the candidate you want to volunteer for. It's the candidate you want to talk to your family and friends about. But with these big and very diverse fields, what we see are a lot of very attractive candidates, many of whom are ideologically very similar. And ranked choice voting gives you an opportunity not to have to pick your favorite child, but rather to be able to rank. So your second choice is a candidate you like very much. You're not quite as passionate as you are about the first candidate. But you think that they really would be a good choice if your first choice weren't running. The third and fourth choices are candidates you like slightly less. You'd be content, you'd be happy. If they were elected, they may not be your first choice, but they still are strong candidates. And your fifth choice is, okay, if everything else fails, this candidate is acceptable. And why would we want to have this? In addition to giving voters more choices, it saves money, right? This original discussion was kicked off by the very expensive runoff in 2009, and we had another one subsequently, and each one costs upwards of $10 million. And each runoff, we see a smaller number of voters turning out than turn out for the general election, and the runoff voters tend to be older and less diverse than the general election voter. Another problem that we see in these large fields is that candidates are told you shouldn't run. You're the third or fourth candidate from your community. You're just going to split the vote. And a candidate that nobody likes in our community is going to be elected. That argument is out the door with ranked choice voting. You don't have to worry that the candidate you are passionate about is the one that everybody tells you has no chance of winning and you shouldn't waste your vote. You can vote your values and your passion, and you don't have to worry about splitting the vote. It allows for new voices and perspectives, and we are really seeing that in the special elections. And importantly, it builds consensus in the district, because in order to win a ranked choice voting election, a candidate has to appeal not just to their inherent base, but to all of the communities and viewpoints in the district. They have to reach outside of their initial base and really convince voters, okay, you might have another first choice, but my values, my principles, my issues are aligned with the candidate that's your first choice. Rank me second or third, and the issues you care about will still be well represented. And importantly, it also discourages negative campaigning. And we have seen this across the country because negative campaigning really interferes with the likelihood that a voter is going to rank the candidate who's attacking their favorite. Ranked choice voting is used extensively across the country. It may be new to New York City, but it's actually not a new idea. It's been used for San Francisco's municipal elections for 15 years. It's been used in Minneapolis for 10. It's been adopted in New Mexico. It's used in Maine now for their second cycle with it. And interestingly, there are a number of states which use it for their presidential nomination process. So there are several states that use it, including Kansas, the Democratic Party in Kansas, the Republican Party in Utah. They decide their presidential nomination choices with ranked choice voting. It's not just in the United States. Ranked choice voting has been used in Australia and in Ireland for decades. India chooses its president, which is a highly ceremonial office, but nonetheless uses ranked choice voting. My understanding is that there are elections in Sri Lanka that use ranked choice voting. So while ranked choice voting is new to New York City, it is a well-tested idea and reform that's working very well in other places, and it's time for New York City to adopt it. So one of the things that is important is to understand how to describe ranked choice voting. What are the values that we want to communicate to voters about this reform? The core message is, starting in New York City, there's going to be a new way for New York City voters to vote. New York City voters are going to have the option to rank their top 5 candidates in our local primary and special elections for mayor, comptroller, public advocate, borough president, and city council. And if voters still want to vote for just one candidate, they can. It's important when talking about ranked choice voting to emphasize that ranked choice voting puts more power, more voice, more choice in the hands of voters. By ranking, voters don't have to worry about wasting their vote. They will not accidentally help elect someone they do not support. They don't have to worry about splitting the vote, and they don't have to worry about somebody being elected with less than a majority. Because ranked choice voting is new to New York City voters, we are at the very crest of a citywide voter education effort. And what I really want to emphasize is that voter education is a team effort. While there are parts of the city government that have an obligation under the charter to educate voters, we need an all hands on deck voter education in order to be sure that New York City voters know how to use ranked choice voting and use it to their benefit in the special elections and the primaries. The Campaign Finance Board is charged with the primary responsibility to educate voters under the charter. The Board of Elections has also undertaken to provide information to voters. And of course, the City Council will also be involved in voter education and outreach in 2021. There is a bill pending in the City Council right now, Intro 1994 from 2020, that sets the baseline for the city's education. And we hope to see that pass at the next stated. But just relying on the city outreach itself alone, we know from other cities, is not the most successful way to approach educating the voters. We've learned from San Francisco, Santa Fe, Minneapolis, Maine, and other places that you have to have, as I said, an all hands on deck voter education effort. So outreach by advocacy groups, trade associations, community-based organizations, and of course, political clubs will be invaluable, because you know your constituents and you can help tailor the message to reach the communities in your district with the most effective messaging. So let's talk a little bit about how ranked choice voting works. So we have an example here. Oh, what happened to the video? Okay. We have an example here, which is ranking our parks. And let me stop and ask, who knows where the green belt is?
Nobody.
That's because it's in Staten Island.
Right.
Right? Okay.
And we're here on the Lower East Side.
That's right, exactly. And I have to say that that question stumps virtually every group that we train. We have a tendency to overlook Staten Island, so we included the Greenbelt.
They have turkeys. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
They have turkeys there.
Yeah, okay. So the choices between Pelham Bay Park, Prospect Park, Central Park, Flushing Meadows, Corona Park, and the green belt. And this is just a sample of how a ballot would look. By the way, this is the basic grid where that will be used by the Board of Elections for ranked choice voting elections for the ballot. The candidates will be listed in a column on the left, and then the choices will, the columns on the top will be identified 1 through 5, first through 5th choice. So, you know, let me go back. Sorry, I am not sure why I am missing something. I am going to, just for a section, I'm sorry. I did not realize that this, I'm having a hard time finding my share here because I'd like to turn off the share for a second and pull up something from, okay, there we go. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, and I apologize that I pulled up the wrong version of this, and I'm going to go to youtube.com because I want to show a short video on ranked choice voting. Okay.
Hi, Jeremy. Hi, Patrick. Hi, Eileen. Thank you for doing this. Mhm.
It's a nice moment just to say hi to everybody.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's all. Let me see if I can see everybody else. Oh, we got
That is-
Tommy, Michael, Stacy. Yeah.
Hi.
Nope, this is not it.
This group is awesome.
Uh,
One of the things that I think that we are all really curious as a club also, Susan, is how we endorse in a ranked choice.
we are definitely going to get to that.
That's a
Okay.
good answer. That's
All
a
right,
good
this
answer.
is a mess up, and I apologize. I'm usually more on top of things, so we're not going to do the video. We're going to go back to our slides. We're going to go through the basics of how you count, and then we're going to talk about the endorsement process, which is actually really an interesting process. Okay, and now we're going to share and go back. Okay.
And so luckily we also have on this call our Grand Street Dems pres here, Jeremy, who I know that they've made some endorsements already, but I think that ranked choice endorsements are so important to understand so that we as clubs can also be able to kind of do things to help people understand ranked choice voting, since this is going to be the first election to do it. So it really covers a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that, we're going to be recording this. I think we can send it out to a couple of friends as well that could help to get it out there publicly, because I think that it's really important that we have these moments.
Absolutely, and I will provide you with a set with the deck that has the video. So I apologize on that. So what happens is that all of the votes are counted, and we look first at the votes that every voter's first choice, and we add them up, and we look to see, has anybody gotten 50% plus one additional vote or more of all of the first choices. And if a candidate has gotten over 50%, they're the winner. Ranked choice voting is done. That's the end. However, if, as is typical in our elections, we don't have one candidate who's gotten 50% plus one in crowded fields, then we look at round one and we look to see, okay, how are these things coming together, and who are the candidates who have the least number of first choice votes. Round two is where we eliminate or take the candidate who is defeated with the least number of first choice votes, and we look at the second choice for every voter who chose that candidate as their first choice. And we reallocate the vote. The second choices now become first choices. So here in this example, the candidates, the voters who chose Flushing Meadows Park Some of them have Central Park as their second choice. Some of them have Prospect, and some of them have Pelham Bay Park. And that's your second round result. And that will be a result which is announced to the public. All of the rounds are going to be made public. It's just a question of whether, at what point the rounds are announced. So nobody in the second round, you notice, has 50% plus one. So we go to round 3 and we duplicate the process of eliminating the defeated candidate with the least number of votes. And that means Prospect Park and the Greenbelt, who statistically have no chance of becoming the winner, are eliminated at the same time to speed up the process. And the voters' second choices are now reallocated as if they were first choices to Pelham Bay Park and to Central Park. And we've got a winner. This is the final 2. And we have a winner with more than 50% plus one, Pelham Bay Park.
I'm sorry, Susan, can you pause 1 second
Mhm.
on that and explain to me why more than one candidate is eliminated at the same time?
It is what is called batch elimination, which is adopted in our charter. And it is designed to move the rounds more quickly. The software that does the tabulation does the statistical calculation to identify the candidates who have no statistical chance of becoming a winner. So Prospect Park and the Greenbelt do not have enough votes to actually acquire sufficient additional choices to become the winner. And therefore you eliminate by batch. It speeds up the process. So instead of eliminating Prospect Park for round 3, Greenbelt for round 4, and having a final round 4, we eliminate the bottoms together.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
Thanks. Understanding that this hasn't happened yet, this has never been tried. Do you know, in terms of the timing, you mentioned software, so that maybe suggests to me the answer that it's going to be relatively quick, but will this happen, say, on election night, or do we have to wait several days for results? Do you sort of know how all of that plays out?
Sure. It plays out the same way knowing the results from the absentee and affidavit ballots play out. The software makes the calculations in approximately 30 seconds. The thing that slows down the count is when are we able to canvass the absentee and affidavit ballots. So ranked choice voting doesn't add significant time to the count because the software, basically it's a computer calculation and it's literally almost instantaneous. What slows down our count is the time it takes to collect the absentees, canvass them, and canvass the affidavit ballots. So on a separate note, as Yulene probably knows, there's a package in the legislature which would streamline and speed up our absentee vote process, but that's not going to be in place for February. We hope it's going to be in place for June so that we will get the response, the final result, and all of the rounds much more quickly than if we have the same absentee count process that we had for the general election in 2020. So it's not ranked choice voting that would slow anything down. It's the absentee and affidavit canvass. So as soon as they are complete, we'll have the results for the rankings.
Can I just, I'm sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can I just follow up on that?
Sure.
Does that mean we expect that on election night, as we would have seen on any other election night, we'll get unofficial results from the Board of Elections showing just, who's got what percentage of votes. And the ranked choice voting calculation is not going to be applied to those for another week until all of the absentee ballots are counted.
That's being debated in the city council, actually. Brad Lander has a bill that would, first of all, you would obviously the first round of in-person votes are what's announced on election night. Brad has a bill which would require the Board of Elections to run the rounds as if that were a complete count on election night. Probably not going to be in place for February, probably in place for June. And there's a debate as to whether that actually is a good idea or not, because you can get a completely misleading result running the rounds on election night, as we know, because sometimes there is a very big difference between the choices of people who vote in person and the ultimate result when you add in the absentee votes. So there's the possibility that we may get a sample run on election night, but it could be far from the final result.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So the ballot will look something like this. As I said, the candidates on the left, the first through fifth choices identified on the grid. And actually, this was prepared earlier. The Board of Elections, thank goodness, has decided that it does not have to include all 5 languages. And so the ballot is actually going to be simpler and clearer with English, Spanish, and 1 additional language available to different voters. So as I said earlier, counting the rounds are run after all the ballots are counted. And the counting only kicks in if no candidate receives 50% plus 1 on the first night, on the first round. And round by round vote totals will be released to the general public, and we're working with the board so that even the raw data that allows you to double check the computations will be available to the public, we hope.
So nothing else gets counted if it's, you know, in the first round, somebody gets 50 plus.
That's
Nothing.
correct. That's
Okay.
correct. If you've
And
got,
it's not even transparent to the public?
I'm sorry?
The other votes are not transparent to the public? Nothing gets counted?
No,
Right.
everything gets counted. Well,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, the second, third, fourth, and fifth choices don't come into play.
Got it.
They are backups, all right? Your second, third, fourth, fifth choices only come into play if your first choice is defeated, does not have enough votes to win, is eliminated in one of the rounds, right? So if somebody has 50% plus 1 of the first choices, we don't look at second, third, or fourth choices at all. That data is available. Somebody could run rounds, but there's no point to it because your 50 plus 1 is the winner.
And Susan, if somebody said, you know, I only have 1 candidate that I want, and they vote, would that person say be best suited then voting for them is there an option for them to vote as that same candidate as first, second, third, fourth, and fifth straight across?
That is discouraged. And in fact, the instructions say do not do that because you are, in essence, you've eliminated your backup. You might as well just vote for, if you're going to vote for 1 candidate only, just put them as your first choice. Because if they are eliminated, there is no second, third, or fourth, or fifth choice. You're not strengthening your first choice by repeating. If they are eliminated, then your vote has no further power and you have disempowered your vote.
I don't think that a lot of people will understand that. I think that that's something that, you know, modeling might need to explain that, because I don't know if that's easily understandable when you go from a winner gets all to the ranking.
So the actual instructions on the ballot say fill in an oval for only 1 column and fill in an oval for only 1 oval per row. So people will be instructed, and believe me, it's certainly voters are going to get this message over and over and over again. There's going to be more voter education and information coming from both the city and from advocacy groups because of ranked choice voting than I think we have seen in other elections. I know CD 24, CD 31, voters are going to get a minimum of 3 different mailings, one from the Board of Elections, one from the Campaign Finance Board, and one from Rank the Vote NYC at a minimum. Plus the candidates are out with the same message. I think voters are going to have more information about these races and about ranked choice voting than in pretty much any previous city election that I'm aware of. They're going to receive information at the polling place. In addition, there's going to be a lot of information saying, fill in only 1 oval per column, only 1 oval per row. Okay. Okay. The message that we want to get out to voters is you have more choice and more power. Even if your favorite candidate doesn't win, you still have a say in who's elected, which under the current system, you do not. You can vote your conscience without worrying that you're wasting your vote. And most importantly, ranking a second, third, further choice will never hurt your favorite candidate. So again, there are some people who are going to say, oh, I don't want to see a change. That's okay. It's a change. And some people are resistant to change. And there are going to be some voters who don't even know that it's happening, which is why it's important for clubs like yours to be ready to talk about RCV. Reminding them that while this is a new system for New York City, this is not an untested new experiment. This has been used in other places. And ranking is easy. We all do it every single day. Take your family to the ice cream store during the summer, and your 10-year-old is able to tell you their first 3, 5, or 6 favorite ice cream flavors. And if your first flavor is out of stock, the rest of your family knows how to choose a second. What's unfamiliar is taking this very natural thing that we all do automatically and applying it in the election context. That's the only difference. And we have the benefit of best practices from cities across the nation and around the world. I personally can assure you that the Board of Elections is getting advice from national experts on ranked choice voting and working with them to improve the ballot, to improve their messaging, and the same thing with the Campaign Finance Board. So what we need to do is to emphasize to our family, friends, and neighbors that this is about electing candidates who reflect their values and not a horse race as to, oh, I think this one is ahead, I should vote for that one because everybody tells me that my choice isn't going to win. You vote your values, you insist the candidates are really expressing the values and taking positions on the issues that are important to you. So you can rank up to 5 candidates, as many or as few as you'd like. You don't have to use all 5 rankings. Your vote will still count if you only rank 1 or a couple of candidates. You can I rank a candidate more than once? It doesn't help your candidate to rank them more than once. And in fact, as I said, the instructions tell you not to. And your favorite candidate is not hurt if you have a second choice. So back to the basic message. With other candidates, okay. Let me pull up some of the instances of endorsements because the process of endorsing actually becomes different when you have a ranked choice voting system. As an endorsing club, you know that sometimes you are faced with candidates who have very similar positions, many of whom have worked with you in the past. Some of them actually come out of your clubs or out of organizations that you're very close to. And I refer to the process of endorsement in that situation as having to choose your favorite child among, among the siblings, Ranked choice voting really helps to eliminate that concern that you are picking one out of many and then offending the other who you may end up wanting to work with in the future. Ranked choice voting endorsement process allows you to approach the endorsement in one of two ways. You can pick your first choice and then rank your following choices. Usually endorsing organizations rank their top 3, even though you can rank through 5. And the messaging is basically, we endorse Uline as our first choice, but our second and third choices are candidate B and candidate C. Rank your choices. The first choice candidate is the candidate that your club is going to work for. It's the candidate that you're going to do phone banking for. It's the candidate that you're going to send your folks to volunteer for or to contribute financially with. And the second and thirds are backups. And I'm going to show you some examples of endorsement materials that use that style of endorsing. And candidates are able to run together. The second way in which you can endorse is to say, here are our 2 or 3 choices. Rank these as your top 2 or top 3. And you may not differentiate between a first, second, and third choice. And we've seen organizations do both styles in other cities. We've also seen candidates who go out together, who say, we are representatives of the same community. We've got a great example from the Hmong community in Minneapolis, where 2 women ran together from a community that had had no representation in city government, and said, rank us as your top 2 choices. One of them won, and she hired the second as her chief of staff. That community now is very well represented on the Minneapolis City Council. Because it discourages negative advertising, it really encourages people to be able, candidates to be able to collaborate. Let me pull up some examples of the materials. Oh, the other thing that we recommend is that endorsing organizations use a memorandum of understanding with the candidates, so that the candidates that you endorse sign an agreement with you as to how they will represent your endorsement. So if you go with a first, second, and third choice, the second and third choices are required by your memorandum of understanding, and we have a sample that we share with groups to accurately reflect their ranking. So it would be, where I've been endorsed as number 2 by X Democratic Club, as opposed to the candidate saying endorsed by X Democratic Club. The only candidate that can say that is the first choice. I'm the first choice of X Democratic Club. The second and third must say ranked second choice, ranked third choice by X Democratic Club, by 32BJ, whomever. And we're starting to see endorsements that are ranked, right? Just this past week, New York Communities for Change announced their choices for certain city council races. And in one race, they said, we have 2 strong candidates, we endorse them both. And 21 for 21 has ranked their endorsements for city council seats. So it's a very powerful tool that allows organizations to focus on the issues and not have to choose a favorite child. Yeah, go ahead.
Susan, sorry if you're going to get to this, but what about when it comes to carrying petitions by clubs? How would that work? Would we still really just carry them on behalf of the first?
You'd carry on behalf of your first choice. All your resources go to your first choice, right? That's still your first choice. The second and thirds are backups. Yeah, Michael.
How hyper-local is this? Does it go down to the district leaders level?
No, because district leaders are state Okay, so this is something which is passed by our city charter. That means the district leaders and DAs and judges are not included unless we're successful sometime in the future in adopting ranked choice voting statewide.
Interesting.
Okay, so what that means also in terms of the ballot, remember, this is only the primary, not the general. So in Manhattan, what you're going to see is a two-sided ballot. On one side, you're going to have your ranked choice voting candidates, and on the back side, you're going to have your DA and any judicial candidate, so that there's a clear distinction for the voters. They are not going to be lumped together. They are going to be absolutely separate. And it may be the case that given the number of candidates that we have, that we're going to have multiple page ballots. The state candidates that do not rank will be on a separate page. The charter is very clear about this. And the instructions are very clear on the ballot, which are the ranked choice voting ones, which are not. And again, we're working with national design experts who are in direct contact with the Board of Elections, giving them feedback on how to set this up so it works. And the design consultants are the same people who redesigned the oath envelope for the absentee ballots, and we know how successful that graphic change was. So we are bringing in the best people from across the country who've spent years researching how to set this up, how to communicate with voters, and we are ensuring that the Board of Elections, in addition to the Campaign Finance Board, has the benefit of the best practices. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable with their preparations and with their ability to run a ranked choice voting elections, where in actuality, from the voter's point of view, the only difference is the ballot. From the administration point of view, the difference is the tabulation and the information which the poll workers have to be ready to provide. The poll workers are being given a script to read to voters, so it's uniform, and every voter is going to receive a palm card explaining ranked choice voting when they come in, and there are big posters. For the special elections, we're going to have election protection monitors at polling places handing out ranked choice voting information. That's why I say there is a huge amount of education which is underway, and a tremendous amount of information which voters are going to get about ranked choice voting. And that's separate and apart from the voter's guide, which everybody is getting in the mail. If you go to the Campaign Finance Board website, if you go to the Board of Elections website, you have good, clear information about ranked choice voting. Nobody is taking this for granted. Everybody is working hard. And I can tell you in CD24 that the candidates are spending a lot of time and energy educating voters about ranked choice voting. That's why I talk about it as an all hands on deck. Let me pull up a few examples. Why don't we do some questions while I pull up some of the examples for you? Other questions that people have?
Yeah,
I
Susan,
can't
I've
have
got
answered
a
everything.
question about, I know you talked about the layout of this and the format, and you've shown a couple of different, you showed two different kind of samples of that. Is there yet an official, at least for the CD24 race that's happening, is there an
Yep, I'm
official
going to show
Board
it
of
to you right
Elections
now.
graphic? Okay,
I'm going to show it to
thank
you right now. Let's see, this is it, okay? This is what the ballot looks like. It's clean, it's clear,
Mhm.
okay? The CD34 ballot, I can tell you that the instructions will be revised so they will be easier to read. The advantage of having all of these special elections is it allows the Board of Elections and the Campaign Finance Board to test out and evolve the messaging and design so that by the time we hit June, everything will have been road tested to a fare thee well. And any changes and evolution on messaging in the ballot will have been accomplished before we go to the citywide.
And I know that one of the big things about doing ranked choice voting is also forcing people to actually read the ballot, which makes it so that it takes away from the whole percentage difference of who's listed first, right? And second or third or whatever on a ballot. But how do they decide who is going to be, is it still in like a I guess toss of the dice or whatever, or like, is it still lottery?
To the best of my knowledge, there has not been a change.
So it's still a lottery.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
on the order. So like
That's
it's not like
correct.
it's alphabetical or anything that make it easier for people to find their candidate. They just have to look for them.
That's right.
Got it.
That's right.
Um,
That's my understanding.
This is a silly question, but are they going to do it for referendums also?
No, it's only special and primary elections. Okay.
Sorry, it's hard to be on something midday, but I did want to confirm and ask. It's only for you said primary and major, right?
No, primary and special.
And
Okay,
does it
it's not for the general election.
Okay. And
Here's my, okay, yeah.
and does it apply to all parties? I mean,
It applies to any party that has a primary or a special election. Remember, is not a special election is not political. It's not by party, right?
right.
Remember the public advocate special election? where we
That's
had
right. It's
however many
nonpartisan
candidates.
is the word I've been searching for in English desperately. Yeah, the special elections are nonpartisan. The primaries are by party. So if there were a Working Families Party primary, it would be a ranked choice voting primary. If there were a Conservative Party primary, it would be a ranked choice voting primary. As we know, in New York City, they tend to be Democratic Party primaries. But there are some parts of our city where we could see some Republican primaries with more than 2 candidates, in which case they would be ranked choice voting primaries. We sometimes get the question, why not the general? The Charter Revision Commission chose not to have ranked choice voting for the general because of fusion voting. The feeling was that we should introduce ranked choice voting to the voters in races where a candidate appears only once on the ballot. That the concern was that if a candidate appears 2 or 3 times on the same ballot, that it would be very difficult. It would be harder to convince voters not to rank them multiple times. That the ballot is inherently confusing with the candidates appearing under different lines. Now, after we've run ranked choice voting through a couple of cycles and the voters are familiar with it, if we decide then to go to include it for the general, we certainly would support that. Here are some examples of campaign materials and endorsements where ranked choice voting is used, okay? So on the far left, Mark Leno and Jane Kim were running for San Francisco mayor. As you can see, they're in our top 2 choices for mayor. In the middle here, the this PAC has endorsed 3 candidates for the mayoral race. Jane Kim, Mark Leno, London Breed, leaving it up to the voter to decide how to rank them. Here, the Star Tribune has recommended a first choice vote for Jacob Fry. That's Minneapolis. And here we've got examples of campaign literature where candidates came out together. And this one on the left, Nelsie Yang and Terry Tao, they are the 2 Hmong candidates in Minneapolis that I mentioned. And Nelsie won the race and then turned around and hired Terry as her chief of staff. And we've had Betsy Sweet actually in 2019, I think, participated in a forum here in New York City talking about ranked choice voting and what a difference it made for her campaign to be able to go out and campaign with another candidate, and how it really changed the entire campaign atmosphere for the gubernatorial race in Maine. So I am happy to provide you with the deck and include the video that somehow or other dropped out, as well, if you would like, as the endorsing MOU for your clubs to use.
Okay, that would be very helpful.
That's so helpful.
You know, we don't have to invent the wheel here. This is, as I keep saying, this is not, it's new to New York City, but it's not a new system. And we have the benefit of the best practices in cities that have been using it through numerous cycles. Because San Francisco, Oakland, Las Cruces, New Mexico, Santa Fe, Minneapolis, places that actually do have diversity. Because I like to point out that Oakland has a situation very similar to the political situation in Brooklyn. So we know it translates and we know how to get this right. And we're looking forward to providing you with the information and working with you to be sure that your constituents understand ranked choice voting and get the full benefit of using it in June.
Thank you, Susan, but will it get us through the candidates forum that we're about to spend 3 hours?
Well, hopefully there'll be a ranked choice voting question, and we're going to be sponsoring a Manhattan Borough President ranked choice voting forum. We did that in Brooklyn. We're doing it in Queens, and it's the candidates talking about ranked choice voting, why they support it or don't support it, how it's changed their approach. So I know you'll have many opportunities to hear from the candidates and also to understand how ranked choice voting works in those very crowded races.
And
Thank you so
Tammy's
much,
not
Susan.
showing her camera right now, Susan, but we were thinking about, to make it more of a social thing, we were thinking about taking your lessons and making it a drinking game. So, and doing a ranked choice drinking recipe game.
Listen, we have a tool for that.
Oh,
I'm going to
amazing.
put a
Listen,
link.
I'm good. I'm good.
I'm going to put a tool. I'm going to put a link in the chat for the game we ran about your favorite holiday traditions. We have a tool that you use online and by phone that allows you to run a mock ranked choice voting election. You tell us what candidates you want. We fill it in for you and give it to you, and you run it at your convenience.
I
And
think
it's
that would be
way
so
cool.
fun for our club. We could do a mocktail competition. So it would be a really fun race for us.
And the really, really cool thing about this tool when you run it is that it shows you the rounds. So ranked choice voting is harder to describe than to actually experience, okay? Once you see this tool, you will see that it's actually pretty straightforward and really, really fun. You're going to absolutely enjoy your mock election. It is way, way fun to do. That is such a great idea to do that. And in the chat, I am right now putting this link. Somebody be sure to copy it and enjoy the, and you can still vote. We haven't closed it off. Oh, whoops, I did that. Here's to everyone is this
Michael, you
link.
got that link for us?
Yeah, I just put it in the chat. You're going to have so much fun with it.
I'll
It's
send
still
it
the
to-
holiday traditions, but it tells the story. People love this.
Amazing.
So let us
Thank
know what contest you want to run. We'll set it up for
Mocktails.
you and give you your
Mocktails
own
and
URL. Okay, mocktails to cocktails. Okay, I've got a peppermint mock white Russian, right? A mocktail white Russian. So lots of fun with that one.
Thank
Love
you
to
so
help you
much,
out.
Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you for this
so much, Susan.
opportunity, guys. We'll be in touch.
Have a
Yeah.
great
Hey,
day.
Stacy.
Hi.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.